The entire restaurant fell into a heavy silence the moment everyone understood what I had just done. My friends had been waiting for me to laugh it off, invent some excuse, or slip away quietly after catching sight of the woman seated near the window. Instead, tears welled up in several pairs of eyes as I calmly pulled out the chair across from her, offered a genuinely warm smile, and treated her with the simple dignity that every person deserves. None of them realized that my reaction was rooted in a painful chapter of my past that I had kept locked away from everyone. That unexpected blind date turned out to be the beginning of a story that would transform far more than two lonely hearts. Before we go any further, if you truly believe that kindness matters more than appearances, and that everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who could use a little hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us what really counts in life. My name is Nathan, and I lived in Columbus, Ohio, where life too often felt like the same dull rhythm of work, quiet evenings, and polite smiles that masked a deep loneliness. After spending years pouring everything into my career as an architect, my coworkers constantly teased me about needing to get back into the dating world. Without my knowledge, they secretly arranged a blind date, convinced it would be an amusing spectacle. They fully expected me to reject the woman the instant I laid eyes on her. They never imagined just how wrong they would turn out to be. When I walked into that restaurant, I noticed a beautiful smile before I noticed anything else about her. Sitting by the window was a woman named Grace. She was plus-sized, dressed elegantly in a soft blue dress, and her gentle brown eyes carried years of disappointment hidden behind a remarkable warmth. She stood up nervously as she saw me approaching, clearly bracing herself for yet another painful rejection before the evening had truly begun. Her hands trembled slightly when she greeted me, as though she had lived through this same heartbreak many times before. As we shared dinner together, something extraordinary unfolded. Instead of awkward silences, there was laughter. Instead of judgment, there was genuine curiosity. Grace told me about her work as a children's librarian, where she spent every day encouraging young readers to dream bigger than their circumstances. She described organizing free reading programs for struggling families and dedicating her weekends to collecting books for underfunded schools all across Ohio. Every story she shared revealed a compassion that could never be measured by outward appearance. Meanwhile, I found myself thinking about my younger sister, Sarah. Years earlier, after she had survived a serious illness, the medication she depended on caused dramatic weight gain. I watched strangers whisper about her, friends drift away from her life, and even family members treat her differently. The brightest person I had ever known slowly began to believe she was unworthy of love, simply because society judged her body before ever seeing her heart. She passed away several years later from complications unrelated to her weight, but I never forgot how deeply careless words had wounded her spirit. Looking at Grace, I recognized the same guarded smile that Sarah used to wear whenever she expected rejection. Halfway through dinner, one of my coworkers accidentally let the truth slip. The blind date had never been arranged as a sincere attempt to help me find someone special. It had been planned as a cruel joke, with several people waiting nearby to see how quickly I would walk away. The realization hit everyone like a sudden storm. Grace quietly lowered her eyes, already steeling herself for yet another humiliating ending. Instead, I stood up, walked around the table, and gently took my seat beside her rather than remaining across from her. I thanked her for spending her evening with me, and told everyone present that the only embarrassing thing happening in that restaurant was the way people judged another human being based on looks rather than character. The room grew painfully quiet. Some people stared at the floor, while others wiped away tears. For the first time, many of them realized that what they had considered harmless entertainment had become someone's deepest emotional wound. From that evening onward, Grace and I continued to see each other. We explored parks throughout Ohio, volunteered together at community food banks, visited bookstores, attended church events, and discovered that our greatest joy came from serving others rather than trying to impress anyone. She encouraged me to become more patient, while I reminded her daily that her worth had never depended on a number printed on a scale. Together, we learned that healing often begins when someone chooses to see the soul instead of the surface. Months later, Grace decided not because anyone pressured her, but because she genuinely wanted to feel healthier that she would begin taking better care of herself. I joined her every step of the way. Some mornings we celebrated small victories during peaceful walks around the neighborhood. Other weeks brought setbacks, frustration, and discouragement. Yet unlike every painful experience she had endured before, this journey was never about changing herself to earn love. It was about loving herself enough to pursue better health while already knowing she was valuable exactly as she was. A year later, our church hosted a community celebration where many of the same coworkers attended. They were surprised not because Grace looked different, but because the happiness between us was impossible to miss. She radiated a confidence that had nothing to do with her appearance. The people who had once laughed quietly approached us with sincere apologies, admitting they had learned an unforgettable lesson from that single evening. Standing beside Grace that afternoon, I realized that true beauty had never entered the restaurant wearing a certain dress size. It had entered carrying kindness, courage, forgiveness, and a heart that refused to grow bitter despite years of unfair judgment. Those qualities transformed not only her life, but also everyone willing to look beyond appearances. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us how compassion can change lives. Before this story ends, I have a special request. Please comment with just one word, kindness, if you believe that every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter how they look. That blind date was supposed to become the cruelest joke of my life. Instead, it became the greatest blessing God ever placed in my path. Sometimes the people the world overlooks are the very ones who teach us what love, humanity, and real beauty truly mean. And in the end, it was never my reaction that left the room in tears. It was the realization that kindness will always be more powerful than prejudice.